Images of war in ancient times and during the Warring States period conjure up images of shogun, samurai, and bushi, wielding spears and Japanese swords. However, what was more important for samurai of both forces to subdue their opponents were the long-range weapons, the throwing stones, and bows rather than close-range warfare. It is said that the bow weapon was the mainstay of the battlefield. The Japanese bow wakyu is the largest in the world at 221 centimeters in length, and unlike Western bow, archery has a distinctive asymmetrical shape. In this video, we will explain the wakyu used in Japan, comparing it with the archery used in the West. Please subscribe to our channel and don't forget to like our videos. First, let me explain the materials used for wakyu. Wakyu are made of botanical materials, such as bamboo and wood, while bows in the world were made of animal materials, such as bone and tusk. Because of this difference in materials, the shapes of bows are also completely different. Bows in the world were made by bending them in order to increase their power through repulsive force. The more the bow was curved, the more powerful it became. So much so that it was shaped like an inverted C before being stretched. On the other hand, wakyu do not curve at all. Because they are made of bamboo or wood, they break when you try to bend them, and they are too hard to bend in the first place. For this reason, wakyu were made longer in order to increase their power. Thus, for example, the size of English longbows, which are Western-style bows, ranges from 120 to 160 centimeters, while wakyu are much larger, with a total length of 221 centimeters. Also in the same Asian region, Chinese bow called ishiyumi is approximately 64 centimeters in length. Wakyu is one of the largest in the world. Many people think of katana when they think of Japanese weapons, but the wakyu is actually an incredibly powerful weapon. According to modern research, the bow can penetrate a frying pan when shot from a distance of 15 meters. It easily penetrates 3 pieces of wood 9 millimeters thick. Of course, this power depends on the skill of the archer. Especially when it comes to bowsmanship, there is a big difference between the skills of modern samurai and those of the samurai of the past. In the days of the samurai, lives were at stake, and it is said that the power of a samurai's bow in those days was half that of today. The difference is simply explained by the power of the bow. Although it is only a guide, the standard for the power of a bow in modern times is about 1/3 of one's body weight. If a person weighing 60 kilos shoots a bow, it weighs about 16 kilos. A beginner's bow is generally 10-15 kilos, and the strongest bow power is assumed to be 25 kilos or less. On the other hand, the power of a samurai's bow was 40 to 70 kilos, more than twice as powerful. And even on horseback, the bow produced a great power of 40 to 50 kilos. Moreover, the distance of the bow was such that a samurai was said to have no complaints if he could shoot his bow from a distance of 400 meters or more. Today, no archer can shoot such a long distance. Once again, we are overwhelmed by the deadly archery skills of the warriors of the Warring States period. Incidentally, there was a type of bow called kawayumi, which required bowing power of more than 300 kilograms. Therefore, it took 3 to 4 men to draw the bow. The power of the bow was so great that it could pierce the armor of a samurai in armor at a distance of 200 meters. The differences between Western and Japanese bows are due to the differences in the cultures in which they have developed, and there is no comparison as to which is superior. Western-style bows have a history of continuous efforts to improve target accuracy, including the improvement of tools, while Japanese-style bows have a history of respecting the ancient form of the bow, limiting the improvement of tools, and pursuing target accuracy as archery by archers. This comparison shows that the history of the bow is quite different from that of the traditional Japanese bow. The Japanese bow, the wakyu, has a very specific shape, with the lower half of the bow shorter than the upper half, centered on the grip. The French longbow used in the Battle of 1346 is a 2-meter class bow, the same as the Japanese bow, but the ratio of the upper half to the lower half is the same. For the English, the longbow was a weapon of the middle class, but since they were not allowed to ride, shooting it on horseback was not considered a popular option. However, The Japanese bow, like the katana, is the soul of the samurai. Since the samurai were mounted warriors, the bow evolved uniquely accordingly, and its shape is quite different from that of the crossbow. However, when one normally thinks about it, the image comes to mind that bows handled on horseback are easier to use if they are shorter overall. In fact, Mongolian archers, who are primarily mounted shooters, use short bows. However, the Japanese did not choose the path of the short bow, but chose the Japanese bow, which evolved asymmetrically up and down. This is not because they gave priority to rationality, but because of the underlying concept of bushido, or the true spirit of the samurai, a uniquely Japanese obsession and religion of kyudo, or archery. For example, yabusame, horseback archery, in which targets are shot from a galloping horse, is still practiced at events throughout Japan. This bow could have been made shorter, lighter, and stronger if modern composite materials were used. However, the Japanese do not do that. As soon as they do, both yabusame and kyudo lose their raison d'etre. There must be a deeper meaning of Bushido's spirit and preservation of tradition that cannot be explained by science. Both kyudo and yabusame are traditional Japanese performing arts. The traditional art of kyudo has continued from ancient times to the present day, and it is because of the samurai spirit that protects kyudo that the Japanese bow has maintained its ancient great shape and has been handed down to the present day, without changing its shape to be shorter and easier to hold and use like bows in the world. When crossbows became popular around the world, ishiyumi also entered Japan from China. However, the ishiyumi lacked rapid-fire capability, and the Japanese did not need to use it because the main method of warfare at that time was close combat rather than sniping from a distance. In addition, ishiyumi was too strong to be pulled by arm strength. Therefore, it was a bow that could only be pulled by putting the legs over it and using the back muscles, a posture that would make one sit up and wait for an extended fight if done now. Therefore, ishiyumi could not be drawn on horseback and had many drawbacks, such as the time required to load the arrow, and ishiyumi fell into disuse in Japan. This is the end of the description of the bows. We concluded that the main reasons why Japanese bows were larger than bows around the world were differences in materials, power, and culture rather than convenience. And the reason why Japanese bow are asymmetrical is because they respect old traditions and have kept this shape to the present day by making gradual improvements and preserving traditions, just as castles, temples, and other old things are kept in their original form. Japanese people like to fit everything into a pattern, and this applies to martial arts as well. The development of what was originally a war technique into do is a phenomenon unique to the Japanese even today. And thanks to this ethnicity, we modern people are able to observe and spread the only traditional martial art in the world. Thank you for watching.